Wang Yangming, a famous thinker, writer, philosopher, and military strategist in the Ming Dynasty, was the master of the school of mind and was proficient in Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. Wang Yangming achieved moral integrity, meritorious service in words, and was hailed as the true three immortals. There are only 2.5 people in Chinese history who can achieve these three immortalities. One is Confucius, the other is Wang Yangming, and Zheng Guofan only achieved half of the three immortalities. In life, we often hear a sentence, "I understand the truth," but then such truth cannot be considered understood. There is no unity between knowing and doing, which undoubtedly adds a sense of powerlessness. The unity of knowledge and action advocated by Wang Yangming tells us to hone ourselves in practice, constantly reflect on our inner selves, and take action. This guides us to chew over and over again, to implement the truth, to internalize the laws of things, to make our lives and our dealings with things bright and open-minded, and to have a clear conscience. Wang Yangming is known as the first person in the past 500 years. He is known as the most perfect person in the history. His famous quotes enlighten human nature. If you are confused, remember to read this. You will feel clear-headed after understanding it. Wang Yangming's classic quotes are enlightening every time I read them. Every word is like a gem, containing great wisdom for life. The 90 sentences here are the best of the best. Each one is more classic than the last. I suggest you save them and appreciate them slowly. The most important of Wang Yangming's works is Instructions for Practical Living, which is his classic work of Xingshu, which records his behavior and philosophy. We often say, unity of knowledge and action. The reason why Wang Yangming can be called a saint is because his philosophy of mind has influenced the world. As soon as his thoughts came out, they caused a huge response. Japanese Navy Admiral Hachiro Togo once taught his own philosophy of life at an awarding ceremony. He took out his badge and showed it to everyone. There were only 7 big words on it. "I will bow my head to Yangming all my life." The reason why Wang Yangming can be called a saint is because his philosophy of mind has influenced the world. His philosophy of mind is a rare gem in the history of Chinese civilization and a treasure that every one of us should be proud of. He blew the clarion call for the liberation of human nature. Du Weiming, a professor at Harvard University in the United States, asserted the 21st century is the century of Wang Yangming. The Japanese hero Sago Takamori once said, "The cultivation of the mind and the tempering of courage all come from Yangming's philosophy." Under the influence of Wang Yangming, Japan successfully carried out the Meiji Restoration. On January 29th, 1529, Wang Yangming died suddenly on his way back home. Before his death, his students asked him if he had any last words. He said, "This heart is bright. What else is there to say?" Let us approach the world of Yangming's philosophy of mind together. Unity of knowledge and action. The true and solid knowledge is action. The clear and careful action is knowledge. It is easy to defeat the enemy in the mountains, but it is difficult to defeat the enemy in the heart. People must be tempered in things before they can stand firm and be steady, both when still and when moving. Without determination, there is nothing that can be accomplished in the world. Those who plant trees must cultivate their roots, and those who cultivate virtues must cultivate their hearts. It is better to have a well of several feet with a source than a pond of several hectares with no source. Thousands of saints are just shadows. Conscience is our teacher. It is not more valuable to be without mistakes, but it is more valuable to be able to correct mistakes. There is no one who knows but does not act. To know but not act is simply to not know. Those who point out my weaknesses are my teachers. The friendship between gentlemen is as pure as water. If you hold on to it and pursue it, it will be 1,000 miles away. If one does not have a firm will, then he is like a boat without a rudder or a horse without a bridle, drifting and running away with no destination in the end. Gain insights in silence and hone your skills through practice. As long as you get rid of human desires and keep the principles of nature, it is the effort. When you are quiet, you should always think about getting rid of human desires and keeping the principles of nature. When you are active, you should always think about getting rid of human desires and keeping the principles of nature, regardless of whether you are quiet or not. When you have not seen this flower, it and you are both in silence. When you come to see this flower, its color becomes clear all of a sudden, and you know that this flower is not outside your heart. This heart is bright. What else is there to say? There is no good or evil in the body, but there are good and evil intentions in the action. Knowing good and evil is conscience, and doing good and avoiding evil is the study of things. The biggest disease in life is just the word pride. Being determined is like having a heartache. If you focus on the pain, you will not have time to gossip or meddle in other people's affairs. The master of the body is the mind. What the mind produces is intention. The essence of intention is knowledge, and where the intention is the object. Everyone has his own compass, and the root of all changes is always in the heart. But I laugh at the previous upside-down view, looking for it outside the branches and leaves. The mind is the principle. There is no principle outside the mind, no object outside the mind, and no matter outside the mind. There is no greater disaster than taking credit for one's achievements from heaven. No greater sin than concealing the goodness of others. No deeper evil than usurping the abilities of those below you. And no greater humiliation than forgetting one's own shame. If all four are present, disaster will be complete. Anyone who is not diligent in studying must not have a firm determination. Therefore, to set one's ambition is to have the heart to learn. To be a scholar is to set one's ambition. The things in the world are easy to gain, but easy to lose. If its accumulation is not long, its development will not be grand. A gentleman is tireless in teaching, but the teaching method must be strict. Humility is the foundation of all good, while arrogance is the root of all evil. The key to teaching is not to learn a lot, but to master it. Beyond conscience, there is no more knowledge. Beyond knowledge, there is no more learning. The mind has no external things. Things are born from the mind. The mind is empty and not ignorant. All principles are present and all things come from it. There is no principle outside the mind, and no things outside the mind, and no things outside the mind. Don't say there is no supply in the mountains. The bright moon and fresh breeze are free of charge. The law of nature is human desire. The reason for being a saint is to be pure in the principles of nature, not in talent or strength. Therefore, even if you are an ordinary person, if you are willing to learn and make your heart pure in the principles of nature, you can also become a saint. The true and solid knowledge is action. The clear and careful action is knowledge. The efforts of knowledge and action are inseparable. Self-examination is to cultivate oneself when there is something to do, and cultivation is to self-examination when there is nothing to do. Repentance is the medicine to cure illness. However, it is important to change it. If it is left unresolved, the illness will reoccur due to the medicine. Learning requires self-reflection. If you only blame others, you will only see their faults and not your own faults. If you can reflect on yourself, you will see that you have many shortcomings. So why would you have the time to blame others? The principle of all things is nothing but my heart. Although the universe is vast, as long as one has a kind thought and a conscience, even an ordinary person can become a sage. A narrow mind is the root of disaster, and a broad mind is the door to happiness. If you correct your mistakes with just one thought, you will immediately regain your original nature. You see saints everywhere on the street, and people on the street think you are a saint too. The way of the sage is that our nature is self-sufficient. Those who seek reason in things are wrong. The principle of nature is benevolence. Power is the greatest benefit or harm in the world. A mean man steals it to accomplish his evil, while a gentleman uses it to accomplish his good. His achievements are unparalleled in the world, yet no one is jealous of him. His kindness benefits all things, yet no one competes with him. Take precautions before it happens and overcome it when it just occurs. 1,000 sins and 100 evil deeds all stem from arrogance. Just the word proud resulted in this life. Anyone who attempts to do things beyond his ability and forces himself to know things beyond his ability cannot be considered to be exercising conscience. For those who are committed to morality, fame and honor are not enough to burden their hearts. For those who are committed to fame and honor, wealth and honor are not enough to burden their hearts. To slander someone with words is a shallow slander. To slander someone with one's body is a deep slander. Only when a person is as pure as the principles of nature can he be considered a saint. Only when gold is a full color can it be considered fine. Following reason is good. Getting angry is evil. If you reduce your human desires, you will regain some natural principles. People must have a heart for themselves before they can control themselves. Only by controlling themselves can they achieve themselves. When you see a virtuous person, you should try to emulate him. When you see an unvirtuous person, you should reflect on yourself. Then you will not blame others too much and will be strict with yourself. People need to be tempered in things before they can stand firm and be steady, both when they are still and when they are moving. A man's ambition is for profit, and although he desires good governance, he cannot obtain it. Devoting oneself to the path, even if one wishes for poor governance, it cannot be achieved. Reward and encourage those who have made contributions. Punishing intimacy will make the guilty more vigilant. The strategy for external governance must prioritize internal governance. A person's goodness or evilness depends on a single thought. The righteous spirit of a gentleman may also be stimulated by misfortune. Knowing is not difficult, but doing is difficult. Conscience is just a sense of right and wrong are just likes and dislikes. When the measurement is feasible, it should be done immediately, and when it can be stopped, it should be stopped immediately. When dealing with friends, try to be humble to them, then you will benefit. If you are superior to them, you will suffer. The saying goes that there is nothing in the world, and it is in the ears of people who disturb themselves. The main idea is clear, and the details are in sight, and the end is followed. Only when one experiences wealth and poverty can one understand the world. Only when one experiences death and life can one understand the friendship. Those who indulge in lust are the root of all evil. Those who have few lusts are the foundation of all good. To cultivate oneself, govern the country, and bring peace to the world is to study things. Those who serve use their strength. Those who serve use the Tao. Strength can be bent, but the Tao cannot be bent. Conscience is the innate sense of morality and judgment. The barrier of life and death is easy to pass, but the barrier of the heart is difficult to pass. As long as the enemy has doubts in their hearts, the battle is won. Family affection is innate. If we can really abandon it, we will destroy our species. Only when knowledge and action are unified can one be considered a perfect person. What I desire, others also desire. Be indifferent to show your ambition. Be calm to achieve your goals. The prosperity passes by in a flash, and fame and fortune tie people together forever. Nature is the essence of the mind. Heaven is the origin of nature, and to fulfill one's mind is to fulfill one's nature. A narrow mind is the root of disaster. A broad mind is the door to happiness. Holding on to one thought is the key to becoming a saint. It is better to step back and weave a net than to stand by the river and envy the fish. Less scheming, less pain. Don't be disturbed, don't be troubled. Be patient with loneliness and work hard for a long time. Cultivate when you are still and reflect when you are active.